And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us, and one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it. And that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon. Today's episode is going to be a little different from what we're normally used to. It's been almost 6 months ago that I sat down and recorded with someone named Micah Dank. And for some reason, the audio from that little intro recording didn't happen. It's corrupted. I'm not sure. It's just not usable. That being said, the audio from his actual research is a video that's available over on YouTube. So he gave me permission to use the video. So if you're listening and you'd actually like to watch the video, you'd have to go over to the Tinfoil Tales YouTube channel. But with all that being said, after sitting on it for so many months, I decided just to go ahead and release it as is. What you're hearing right now, then the rest will be all of Micah's research of what he's looked into in regards to astrology and biblical tie-ins. Before we dive into that, as always, if you'd like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. And if you would like to help the podcast, make sure to share it around, leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to Tinfoil Tales, and also check out the Patreon. But on that note, I'm going to turn it over to where Micah's research began, and I hope you guys enjoy it. It's pretty informative, so make sure to give it a good listen. And if you're interested in watching it, because it works a little bit better if you're actually being able to see the visuals, so go over to the Tinfoil Tales YouTube channel, and you can watch it there.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for taking the time to watch this. You see I got my Micah Dank Into the Rabbit Hole series hat. I have hats, t-shirts, hoodies. It's all on my website. We'll get to that a lot later, though. So what am I doing here? I'm doing here because I'm making a truncated video to basically show everybody how we're being controlled from the beginning of time. And I'm going to make a lot of claims, and a lot of them cannot be debunked. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with the presentation. It's going to be about an hour and a half long, and I hope you guys sit through it. So let me add this to the stage, and for you guys to be able to start seeing this. Now, the Bible, the scriptures are metaphysical, astrological, and that's the one right here we're going to touch on today. Astrological. That's the one that we're going to spend the most time on, and that's what I excel in. We're going to talk, there's anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. It's also gematria, etymology, numerology, symbology, and a psychedelic book. There's 12 holy sciences, like the 12 zodiacs, like the 12 months, like the 12 disciples, like the 12 pillars of Hercules. It just goes on and on and on. The Bible is not literal. It's not historical. It's not reality. And it's not original. And I'm going to show you how that's the case here. Now, I mentioned numerology real quick. So I want to give you an example of something that's not astrological yet. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. So the 153 fish, right? Well, this here is the Vesica Pisces. The Vesica Pisces. And we know Pisces is the 2 fish. So if you look here, this is the Vesica Pisces right here, the intersecting lines. Now, if I were to just take this and do this, I would hope this symbol looks familiar to you. It's the Jesus fish. So this is one fish. And right here is two fish. So here's the two fish of the Vesica Pisces. This right here, the centerpiece right here, its mathematical equation is 2, 4, 7 over the 153. So they did encode numerology into this, but I just wanted to give you one example to show you the Bible is not meant to be taken literally, but we're gonna get into all of that. Now, I'm gonna explain to you exactly why this is done the way it is, because after watching this for about 30 minutes and seeing some of the patterns that come up, you're gonna want to go, all right, well, what's the point, right? Well, what is the point of all this that I'm about to show you? We take for granted that we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretation for the harvest. They had to know things. They had to know that Taurus is when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac, and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look up at the stars and see all this movement and make up stories about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children, then them to their children, on and on. Eventually, they learned how to write, and they wrote these stories down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to Christians in the New Testament, then to the Quran, and even the Book of Mormon. So I'm going to read you this quote that I'm going to read you a few times today. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. That's John Dominic Crossan. So this right here that you're looking at is the zodiac. Now, Cancer at the top, that's the summer. Capricorn at the bottom, that's the winter. This is the fall. This is the spring. When you connect these, you get the cross of God's Son that he carries to his death. Now, if I'm giving you an example, right? So let me just remove that. Okay. If we're going to talk about patterns here. So let's talk about patterns here. So if I'm in the sign Taurus right here, and we're talking about patterns, there's a couple of patterns that could be made. You have what's known as the connecting sign or a neighboring sign. That would be Aries right here, which is right next to Taurus, and Gemini right here. Those are connecting signs. The other pattern you can make is you go from Taurus to its opposing sign, which is Scorpio. You just go across the zodiac. And these specific patterns will be made constantly. And specifically. See, it's not going to go from like Virgo to Aquarius or Cancer to Pisces. It's not going to do that. It's going to show these specific patterns. So I wanted you guys to know that ahead of time. Now, there's questions you can ask in the Bible. How Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why was he dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. All that is astrology, and all that will be explained. Now, Genesis 1:14 says, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years." And that is exactly what this is. So, each zodiac sign is called a house, or an era, or an eon, or a sign. There are many words for it. A mansion, for example. There's many code words for it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to teach you guys who haven't heard this yet the 12 signs of the zodiac in a way you haven't heard them. What we're going to do is we're going to attach keywords to each sign that are going to make sense after I explain the sign to you. And then we're going to use those signs to find the patterns in any ancient holy text. So we're going to start with Aquarius. The first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man. Now, technically, Aries begins the year. And even further back, it was Virgo. See, in the ancient Egyptian times, Virgo started the new year, the harvest season. So what happened is the sun would come to an end in Leo, and then a brand new sun would be born to a virgin or Virgo. So the story of Aquarius goes back to the story of Zeus and the young boy, or this is one of the early iterations of the story of Aquarius, I should say. Story of Zeus and the young boy basically goes, Zeus saw a young boy on Earth. I believe it was a 14-year-old blonde boy, but don't quote me on that. But it was a young boy on Earth, and he thought he was beautiful, and he wanted him in heaven or in Mount Olympus with him. Incidentally, guys, Mount Olympus is a real place. I don't know if you know this. Mount Olympus is a real place, and none of the Greeks thought to go up there and check out to see if any of the gods were there. But that aside, Zeus saw this boy, and the boy's father wouldn't let him go up with him. So anyway, what happens is Zeus ends up bargaining with the boy's father and gives him a whole bunch of stuff. And the boy is allowed to go up. While the boy is up, just like in this picture, he is serving the gods something called ambrosia, which is their nectar, out of this pitcher. And he's serving it day in and day out. And he does this every single day. And then finally, he just gets sick of doing this. So he goes to the side of heaven, or Mount Olympus, as you say, and he pours it out, which causes a flood on Earth. And that's where the Greeks get their flood story from. Now, Zeus was usually a deviant god who's a very angry, sexually perverted, difficult person, was going to punish him. But in a moment of self-reflection, which is rare for Zeus, instead of punishing him, he's like, yeah, I brought him up here. I probably shouldn't have. He was young. He had friends and all that. He talks himself out of it. So what he does is, instead of punishing him, he immortalizes him as the constellation Aquarius. So there's keywords. Man, because Aquarius is the sign of man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this is how you baptize somebody. All you got to do is you got to put a child under the water pitcher or a confused adult. Whatever you want to do, that's baptism. Water pitcher, because there's a water pitcher in here. Fountain, because the Greek statues and the fountains were built like this to represent this. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea. These are water bodies. Now, Aquarius in astrology is an air sign. But because there's water here in the sign, they can use it to encode water, and they have done that. Whereas Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. Pisces is a mutable water sign. So all the water examples hold true here. Stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean, all the same. Now, whether you're talking about Aquarius water or Pisces water, and now you'll see why I started with Aquarius, because the first two that I talk about are water. Whether you're talking about Aquarius or Pisces water depends on the patterns in the zodiac, in the heavens, that it's going to make. Now, Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is coming up in 8 days, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. There's also 3 types of Passovers that occur. The oldest is the astrological Passover, which is when the sun is going to pass over the equator and start to make its way back to its height in the summer solstice. Things are going to get warmer now. Days are going to get longer now. In Judaism, the Passover is when the angel of death passes over all the houses in Egypt, and anyone that doesn't have the lamb's blood, remember the lamb is a baby ram. They're dedicating themselves as a people of Aries. That's why they smear the lamb's blood, so the angel of death can go, oh, that's a person of Aries. That's a person of Aries. That's a person of Aries. Aries the ram, which is why the Jews still blow the ram's horn during the high holidays. And their firstborn sons will get killed if they don't do this. Now, the Christianity changes it, and it becomes the resurrection of God's son, which is Easter. Easter is also astrology as well, too, because it takes place. So what happens is you have March 21st. Then there will be a full moon. After that full moon, the first Sunday, that is Easter. And that's how you calculate it every year. So whenever you're talking about ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, you're talking about Aries. Then Taurus is the bull. When you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, it's as above, so below, guys, which is not an evil phrase, by the way. You look at the sky, you see the bull, you put the plow on the bull on earth to till the land. Now, we have John Deere equipment and all sorts of tilling equipment that we have nowadays, but back in the day, they needed the bull to do this. So you till the land so you can plant, so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow is the female bull, guys, then you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. This goes back to another Greek story, just like Aquarius. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, that's Gemini. Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So bear with me for one moment, please, because I want to show you this. Okay. Imagine this is the sun. This is the sun. On December 25th, it's going to rise a degree on its axis. Well, you know what? Let's do it this way. Sorry. Let's do it this way. What am I on? 14? Okay. So the sun, December 25th, right here, it's going to start walking a degree a day on its axis, rising and rising. Obviously, this is not to scale. This is just to show you what's going on. Every day, the sun's rising an additional degree. The days are getting longer. The nights are getting shorter. And it continues to do this all the way until it hits June 21st, which is in Cancer. It's the first day of Cancer. It's the first day of summer. What it's going to do then the next day, June 22nd, is it's not going to rise an additional degree or drop a degree. What it's going to do is it's going to rise to that same exact degree for 3 days. Hence, walking sideways. And it's the crab because the crab shuffles side to side. It's a sideways moving creature. Then what it's going to do is on June 25th, it's going to drop a degree. 26th, another degree. 27th, another degree. Now it's making the inverse pattern that we just saw. Now the nights are getting longer and the days are getting shorter. And it's going to continue to do this until it hits right here, which is Sagittarius, December 21st. That is the winter solstice. That's the first day of winter, is the last day of Sagittarius. Then for 3 days, it's going to walk sideways. Now, the ancients on the first day of winter saw that the sun wouldn't crack the horizon, and it basically came to a standstill. And then for 3 days, it goes to that same height. So suddenly God's sun was dead for 3 days. Where in Capricorn on December 25th, it comes back to life. And that is why all the gods are born on December 25th, by the way. So that's Cancer. Whenever you're talking about crab, because the Cancer is the crab, or the beetle, because in the ancient Egyptian times, the dung beetle, or the scarab, I should say, took place of the crab. In fact, you get the word crab if you mix up the letters of scarab. You can get that. Now, Leo is the king of the jungle. He's the king of the savannah. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you're talking about lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Now, Virgo, is the woman holding the wheat stalk. Remember before when we were saying that you plant in Taurus? Well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you're talking about woman or virgin, because Virgo is the sign of the woman, whereas Aquarius was the sign of the man, I mentioned that earlier. Wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, these are all grainy things that in the Northern Hemisphere thousands of years ago, and a lot of times still to this day, this is the harvest season, is Virgo. Now, Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it's going to judge God's sun as it passes over, well, technically passes under, the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. The Jews always celebrate the new year around the fall equinox. In fact, about a year ago, last Jewish New Year, or the year before then, the Jewish New Year was September 15th. Because the Jewish New Year is always in September, basically. Maybe the very beginning of October, but not often. September 15th is Virgo, the harvest season. Well, 8 days after the Jewish New Year, and it's always 8 days, there's a day for the Jews called Yom Kippur, which is the day of atonement or judgment. Well, 8 days from September 15th is September 23rd. That's the first day of Libra. Of course, the day of judgment has to happen with the scales, with the balance. So all law-related things. Law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court. Libra is also wine season. This is when you plant the grapes in Taurus. You can pick them in Libra and crush them to make the wine. In fact, many women go to their bachelorette parties, and they do them in the spring, which is stupid because everything is bare. But if you have a bachelorette party in the fall, September, October, the grapes are just waiting to be pulled. And everything is full. You could walk up and down the aisles. Libra is also olive oil season. This is when you crush the olives in order to make the oil. So all law-related things, all wine-related things, and all oil or olive oil-related things. Incidentally, and this is for later, frankincense and myrrh are both olive plants as well. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion attacks you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death, and it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with the kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. And I explained this to you already. In Sagittarius, the last day of Sagittarius is the first day of winter. The sun is at its lowest point. It doesn't even crack the horizon. Then it walks sideways for 3 days and comes back to life December 25th. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, or horseman, you're talking about Sagittarius. And then finally you have Capricorn, who's the goat. So Capricorn, January 25th, the sun comes back to life. It is born again. The risen Savior, the light of the world, the only begotten Son, comes back to life. It's born again. Now, if you look at what I'm doing down here, the sun is going to start to make its way back up to its height in the summer solstice every single day. Again, this is not to scale, guys. But basically, it starts to climb up the zodiac, which is known as the Great Mountain. And the reason Capricorn is the goat is because the mountain goats climb the mountain better than any animal. So those are the 12 signs. So there's names for Jesus that they give in church. Jesus being the sun, by the way, as you can see evident because the sun is behind his head right here. I dare you to find a picture on the internet where the sun is not behind his head. Now, when the sun or Jesus is in Capricorn, the goat, he is the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in the man sign Aquarius, he is the son of man. When the sun is in Pisces, the 2 fish, he is the fisher of men. And it's also why he feeds the masses with 2 fish. When the sun is in Aries, the ram, he is the Lamb of God. Cancer, the scarab, the beetle. St. Augustine called Jesus the good beetle. A lot of Christians tell me St. Augustine quotes all the time, but you don't realize that he called Jesus the good beetle because he understands this, or he understood this. When the sun is in Leo, he is the Lion of Judah. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo, he is born of a virgin, and he is called the bread of life. Libra is the scales of justice. He is known as the just one. Then he's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 25th. It's also why he's worshipped on the Sun Day. That's what Christians worship on. Whereas the Jews worship on the Saturn Day because they're a moon Saturnalia-based cult. The Saturn Day. Saturday. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start giving you scripture. With the keywords, here we go. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So he gave them honey. Right? Right here, in the sign Cancer, there is a group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. It's actually called an asterism. It's a very tightly knit group of stars. The Beehive Cluster back in the day used to be called, further back than the Beehive Cluster, it was called the Manger. So go figure. So the Beehive Cluster is in Cancer. That's the beginning of Sagittarius. I'm sorry, that's the beginning of Cancer. Now, if we continue, olive oil, that is Libra, from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. Well, the milk would come from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is here in Sagittarius. The last day of Sagittarius is the first day of winter. So your land from the first day of summer to the first day of winter, this entire land right here, the right side of the zodiac, these 2 seasons, that is your land of milk and honey. It's not a place on earth. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. So the lambs are Aries, the goat is Capricorn. The rams is Aries from Bashan and the finest wheat. Wheat is the lady with the wheat stalk, Virgo. They drank the best wine from red grapes, which is Libra. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. There's 10 signs in Deuteronomy 32. Now, if I'm going to start to show you how this works with the zodiac wheel to make the patterns, Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover so that he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So Passover takes place in Aries, which is right here. This is Aries right here, what I'm highlighting. Right after that, he walks to the Mount of Olives. Well, olives are Libra. So how do you get from Aries to Libra? They are opposing signs. So now you're in Libra. You went from Aries to Libra. While in Libra, they're waiting for Judas to betray him. Well, who's the betrayer? That would be the next sign over, Scorpio, right? But here's the thing. They said they're waiting for Judas to betray him. So we're not in Scorpio yet. We're still in Libra. So while he's in Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember, he gives the parable of the true vine, which has to do with the grapes. So you start in Aries, you go to Libra, you're waiting for the next sign, Scorpio, you're still in Libra, you give the parable of the true vine. Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion, that's Leo. The second was an ox, that's Taurus. The third had a face like a man, that's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the Scorpio scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. It crawls on its belly. In Mexico, during Santo de la Muerte, the men get all dressed up in suits and crawl on their hands and knees and their belly to church. It's a humbling thing. The first thing in the Garden of Eden that God does to the serpent after the deception, before he even kicks them out, Adam and Eve out, what he does is he takes away the serpent's legs. He makes him slither on his belly. It's a punishment. But the evolved form of the Scorpio, or the scorpion, known as the ascendant, is the eagle. The eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth. So that's how it ascends. So the eagle becomes Scorpio. Now, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the four fixed signs of the zodiac. Leo and Aquarius are opposing signs. Taurus and Scorpio are opposing signs. So what is a fixed sign? So let me show you, let me see if I got a clean wheel that I can use. Right here. All right, this is good enough. Okay, this is Taurus. This is Leo. This is Scorpio. And this is Aquarius. These are the four fixed signs. There's 12 zodiac signs. There's 4 seasons. So there's 3 signs in each season. So the first sign in the season makes the cross right here. Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, Aries. That's the cross. That's the cardinal signs. That's why there's cardinals. If I were to take one of these zodiac signs, they can be broken down into 3 10-day segments, 1, 2, 3, known as deacons. That's why there is deacons and cardinals in church. It's all astrology. Now, Taurus to Scorpio, like here, Aquarius to Leo, like here. They are the fixed signs. They're fixed because they're the second out of 3 signs. So they're in the middle of the 2 signs in the season. So Taurus is the middle of spring, Leo is in the middle of summer, Scorpio is in the middle of fall, Aquarius is in the middle of winter. So that's what I want to show you. So is there really a 4-headed animal that's going to be on in the heavens waiting for our destruction? Or is it just making the zodiac pattern right here? Just makes an X through it. Ezekiel 10:14. Each of the cherubim had 4 faces. One face was that of a cherub, the second the face of a human being, the third the face of a lion, and the fourth the face of an eagle. It's the same thing. Now, Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. A third of the stars. A woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It is a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. Now, if the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So if we look at this zodiac right here, right? Let me see here 1 second. Hold on. Third of the stars out of the sky. The moon will be at her feet, right? Okay, so let's show you how this works. If this is to be looked at as a clock, which it is, it's a giant cosmic clock. There are 12 zodiac signs and there's 24 hours a day in each sign. So the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. So Capricorn would be midnight to 2. This would be 2 to 4. This would be 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, 2 to 4. And then Virgo right here would be 4 to 6. Well, right now it's 7:16 at night, and I'm looking out and the sun is still here. So if the sun is in Virgo, if the sun is still out in Virgo, then the moon will be at her feet. Whereas if the moon was up, the sun will be at her feet. It's just another metaphor. So then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. On the left is the constellation Draco right here. Its tail, which is right here, goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the sign, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. So there you go. Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. It's just a short sentence. Well, the sheep is Aries right here. The wolf is a constellation Lupus, which borders the Libra line. Those are opposing signs. The serpent is Ophiuchus, which is the serpent bearer. The 13th sign, it's sidereal astrology, which I'm not going to get into here. But Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, sits between Scorpio and Sagittarius, so it's right here. The dove is one of the 8 evolved forms of Scorpio, which I'm not going to get into again. But I can one day. Along with the eagle and the phoenix mentioned earlier. So you have Aries, Libra, Scorpio, and Ophiuchus. That's 3 signs in a row, 4 signs total. So bear with me just a quick. Okay, so let me continue. So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. So let's start taking much longer passages and see if we can decode them as well. This brings me, at this point of the presentation, to the story about Job. Now, the story about Job, you have to understand a couple of things. Number one, Job is the oldest book in the Bible, and it is not even close. It is very, very, very old. And the story of Job is that there was a man who was faithful to God. He was the most faithful. And he had everything: land, money, animals, family, everything. And Satan goes up to God one day and says, listen, the only reason he's your most faithful is because he has everything in the world. If you take everything away, he will curse you. So God's interested. He says, you know what? I'll take that bet. But here's the thing. You can take away whatever you want. You can do whatever you want to him. You just may not take his life. So little by little, Satan starts taking everything away from Job. And at one point, Job has like nothing left. And he's sitting down. He's got boils or lesions. And he's crying up to God. And God gives him a response after he's crying to God for quite a few many pages in the Bible. And God gives him a response. I'm going to read you God's response. And I'm going to show you the astrology in it. So, Job 38:32. The first thing he says is, can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The Mazzaroth is intentionally untranslated because it means the zodiac. They don't want that word in the Bible. Mazzaroth over time becomes the word Mazalot, which survives in modern Judaism today as Mazel Tov. And you only know how old Mazel Tov, how old of a phrase that is. Imagine how old Mazzaroth is. And what does Mazel Tov mean? It means good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He first says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Well, these are open celestial metaphors. But then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cubs? Well, the constellations are the zodiac above. The bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper that takes place in Cancer. Who can tip over the water jars of heaven? Who is the guy holding the water jar, tipping it over? That's Aquarius. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo. Leo and Cancer are connecting signs. Who provides food for the raven? The constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Cancer, Leo, Virgo are 3 signs in a row. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? Mariga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Orion's belt, I should say. Orion is located between Taurus and Gemini. Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo are 5 signs in a row, making an extremely distinct pattern. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's a Celis borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Achille or Alpha Liman, which means 2 ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? So because they mentioned horse, we know that it's Sagittarius. But if you keep reading, it laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver, there you go, the quiver. The quiver sits on the side of the horse that holds the arrows for the man who's riding the horse. Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? Aquila is the Latin name for eagle and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally, he says, can you pull on Leviathan? And we know that Leviathan was an ancient fish god, just like Mithra, just like Dagon, competing fish gods during the early age of Pisces. So Leviathan will be Pisces. So God's entire response to Job is, do you know where I put all your stars? That's what he's basically saying. Now, answers to questions at the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Jesus, the story goes that the man comes up to Jesus, and through his faith, Jesus is like, yeah, I'll heal you. So he puts some mud on his eyes, and then when it falls off, he's able to see. So that's the story. But the sun does the same thing too. Because what happens is the sun is starting to go down now. It's about 7:30 at night. The sun is starting to go down now, and I'm losing my gift of sight. When the sun is all the way down, I'm going to be blind. I'm not going to be able to see. It's going to take the sun rising in the morning, touching my eyes, like Jesus touched his eyes, so that I can regain my sight. How he walked on water? Well, we know that Jesus walked on water, but the sun does that too. If you've ever seen the sun on a sunset before, you can see how it walks on water. Also, Jesus is called Christ. Christ is a title, by the way. It's not a name. The Jews wrote the New Testament in Greek. So, Christos means anointed one or oil. Doesn't oil also walk on water? So you have Jesus walking on water, the sun walking on water, and oil walking on water. This is known as a triple entendre. Right there. How he turned water into wine. This is not a parlor trick. This is a process. So the reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with one thing and one thing only. The sacred fluid, the rain. The rain, it's God's rain. It's God's sacred fluid. The Hebrews called it shemen. We get the word semen from it. Think about it like this. God's sacred fluid, it basically ejaculates onto Earth. And then from Mother Earth's belly, food, plants, vegetation grow. So what happens is you have Taurus, remember, as above, so below. See the bowl, plant with the bowl? In Taurus, you plant the seeds for the grapes. And then April showers bring May flowers. That's Taurus. And then it rains in sacred fluid throughout the year, and the grapes grow. Now in Libra, you pick them and you turn them into wine. That's how you turn God's water into wine. Why he had 12 disciples, we can go over this real quick. Let me show you some of them real quick. So Aquarius would be John the Baptist, obviously. Gemini would be Thomas Didymus, because in Hebrew, ta'om, or Tom, means twin. Whereas Didymus also means twin. Libra would be James. He's known as the Just One. Scorpio is Judas, the betrayer. Pisces, I'll give you a fifth one. Pisces is Simon Peter. Now, Simon, you have to understand, like Michael to Mike, Matthew to Matt, Jonathan to John, these nicknames all make sense, but you go from Simon to Peter, it doesn't make sense unless you understand the astrology. See, Simon, his job by trade was a fisherman. So the fisherman is Pisces. So Simon is Pisces. But how do we know that? How does it become Peter? Because of the ruling planet of Pisces. I haven't gotten into ruling planets yet, but the ruling planet of Pisces is Jupiter, or Jew-Peter. So I've just given you 5 examples of the disciples and how they match the zodiac. I'm not going to go through the rest of them. But why was he betrayed with a kiss by Judas? We went over that. Why was he dead for 3 days? We went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th? We went over that. And I'll have Christians, of course, come to me and go, his birthday wasn't December 25th. It was the Feast of the Tabernacles, or as the Jews call it, Sukkot. It was during 9/11. It was during Passover, right after Passover, Easter. They'll throw all these stuff. Whatever you think your interpretation is may make sense to you. What I'm giving you is the holy science behind your holy science. So, with that being said, but it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. We're going to go through the entire book of Revelation, right? We're going to show the book of Revelation to show how deep this runs. So Revelation 4:7 is the 4 living creatures. Forgive me, guys, we went over this. I'm going to skip it, okay? Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. Well, the lion is Leo. Revelation 6:1. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures. The 4 living creatures, by the way, are the fixed signs again, which you'll also see in Ezekiel's vision of God, say in a voice like thunder, come. Well, of course the Lamb has to open the first seal because Aries is the beginning of the year. So of course the Lamb opens the first seal. And secondly, the voice like thunder, come. In Hebrew, the word for thunder translates to voices. That's what it translates to. So when they hear the thunder, they think that's God talking. Now, Revelation 6:2, I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. Who's the rider with the bow? That's Sagittarius. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among 4 living creatures, saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. Well, the wheat and the barley, or the bread and the beer, is Virgo. And the oil is Libra, and the wine is Libra. So Virgo and Libra, this is 2 examples of each. They're connecting signs. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. And the stars in the sky fell to earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken from a strong wind. Well, the sun turned black made of goat hair, so the goat is Capricorn. But the moon, they mentioned the moon right after. Well, if you go to Capricorn's opposing sign, that's Cancer, who is ruled by the moon. 7:4. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. So the Jehovah's Witnesses and a lot of people think there's a set amount of people that get to go see God. The 144,000. The pre-sealed. The ones that no matter what they do on earth, they get to go to God. And no matter what you do on earth, you don't. But there are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals. The sacral has 6. The solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12. And the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 equals 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 144. You times that by 1,000 and you get your 144,000. What it's saying is when you've activated all your chakras, that is when you get to go see God. It's a gift that anyone can do. Revelation 9:3. And out of smoke, locusts came down onto the earth and were given power like that of the scorpions on earth. So let's explain locusts real quick. Locusts are a food, as shown in Leviticus 11, which I am about to get to in about 10 minutes. But what is the power of the scorpion? Well, what did I tell you the scorpion does? It betrays, right? So how does the locust betray? Well, if it's a food source, but in a very large amount, it becomes a plague. So that's the betrayal right there. Revelation 9:7. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. They had tails with stingers like scorpions. So, looked like horses, that's Sagittarius. On the head they wore something like crowns of gold. The sun is gold, so that's the sun in Sagittarius. The women's hair is Virgo. The teeth is Leo. and Scorpion is Scorpio. Now, Virgo and Leo are connecting signs. Now, we did Revelation 12, the woman and the dragon, so I'm going to skip that. Revelation 13, 2. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and mouth like that of a lion. This is the first time I'm getting across to this constellation. The constellation is called Camelopardalis, and it's in Gemini. Camelopardalis is a combination of two words. Camelos, which is camel, and Pardalis, which means leopard. In fact, the giraffe's original name was Camelopardalis because they looked at it and they thought it looked like a camel leopard. That's the best word that they could come up with. Now, Camelopardalis is in Gemini, but the bear is Ursa Major, which is in Cancer, and the mouth is a lion. The line is Leo. Gemini, Cancer, and Leo are 3 signs in a row. So the beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. It's telling you about the northern part of the zodiac. 3 signs in a row. Revelation 13:11. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. Well, the lamb is Aries, and the dragon goes from Aries to Sagittarius. So Revelation 13:11 is literally just talking about Aries. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh, and frankincense. And myrrh and frankincense are olive plants, right? So that's Libra. Wine and olive oil, well, that's also Libra. Fine flour and wheat, that's Virgo. Those are connecting signs. Cattle is Taurus. Sheep is Aries. Those 2 are connecting signs. Horses and carriages. Horse is Sagittarius. So that's Revelation, right, guys? It's not that scary anymore, is it? I mean, if you know how to read it, or at least know one way to read it. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a deep dive into the book of Matthew, okay? And I'm going to show you how this works through gospel. Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well. That's here, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, Aries, the cardinal signs that make the cross. Now, the kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. So the closest of the 4 points to Leo is Cancer. Libra right here is past Leo. So Cancer is right before it. So we're looking at June 21st. That's when the gospel starts. This is the cusp right here. What I'm highlighting right here, with these right here, these little dividing lines, they don't actually exist in the sky. You don't look up in the sky and see dividing signs. What these do right here is they represent something known as a cusp or handover date. What that is at the end of the sign, the last 3 days of a sign and the first 3 days of the next sign, the energies blend into each other. So, and also, if you're at a cusp when you're talking about this kind of work, for example, right here, the cusp of Gemini and Cancer, I'd be able to talk about the crab. I'd be able to talk about the scarab, the beetle. I'd be able to talk about the donkey, Acellus borealis. I'd be able to talk about the beehive cluster. That's all Cancer. I could also talk about the twins or the brothers or Camelopardalis. That's Gemini. If you're in one sign, you can only talk about that one sign. But if you're at the cusp, because it's blending the 2, you could talk about either. And believe me, I'll show you that. So John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. Now, if we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of this. And I've had Christians tell me that the Vitruvian Man didn't exist at the time of Christ, therefore this is nonsense. And I say yes, but I really honestly could have used a water bottle. I could have used a stick figure. I could have used a baby. It doesn't matter. I just use this for aesthetic purposes. So Cancer being the head is why he eats wild honey. Look at Cancer is right here. The head is right here. The mouth is right here. The beehive cluster is right here. So he's eating all that honey. Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those, you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So there's the locust right there. Okay, so we went from Leo to Cancer, so that's 2 signs in a row. And also, when they try and tell you a pound of grasshoppers is 3 times as nutritious as a pound of beef, when they try to get you to eat bugs, know that they're getting it from the Bible. This is biblical. A little lower down on the body are clothes made out of camel hair. So we were at Leo, Cancer, the head, the mouth, and now we're at Gemini. While we're in Gemini, this is the upper body right here. So this is where he's wearing the camel hair clothes, or camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. So right now you have the head and the upper body so far. So you're going to go a little lower. Now we have Leo, Cancer, Gemini, and Taurus. You'll get the midsection, which is where you'd wear the belt. Now, Taurus represents the bull and the female is the cow, which is where you would get the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits right here at the cusp between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. So we were in Leo, right here, the beginning of Leo, right here. How would we go from the beginning of Leo to a water sign to signify the baptism? Well, you go across the zodiac, its opposing sign. Right here, Capricorn, Aquarius, you're touching Aquarius, which is the man with the water pitcher, signifying the baptism. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decreases a degree a day. So this is June 24th. So this is John the Baptist right here. And this is December 25th right here. So Jesus is born. He's going to make his way up every day, a degree a day. Whereas John the Baptist is going down a degree a day. This is why John said 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. It's also why St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. Open up your Catholic calendars. June 24th, St. John's Day. Now, the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to the Cancer-Leo firmament of July 24th. Well, this one is simple. He's tempted for 40 days. So count 40 days from July 24th. Takes you to September 2nd. That's right in the middle of Virgo. What's the next passage? If you are the Son of God, Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. The next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Well, that's the law is Libra. So we were in Virgo, and then we were in Libra. And before we were in Leo. So this is 3 signs in a row. So it's just going through the zodiac and telling you stories. Matthew 7:15 and 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. Right here. That's Aries. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? Grapes are Libra. That's right here. They're opposing signs. Once again, so moving along, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. So the water signs, right? That's Aquarius and Pisces. He sat beside the lake, so he's at the cusp between the two. If he was in the lake or went swimming, he'd be in one of the 2 signs. But because he sat beside the lake, he's beside both of them. Now, if you go across from this line right here, that's Leo and Virgo. So it's touching Virgo. As it's across from Virgo, the wheat stalk, the grains. Is it ironic that the next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast? Moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So literally just go back down this way. And now you're touching Pisces, the fish, so you could talk about the fishing net parable. Gemini is the sign of 2 men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. We know Mary, his mother and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends at the cusp of Gemini Cancer. How do we know? Well, it's in Gemini still. This is still in Gemini because they're talking about the brothers. But if you follow this across, its cross sign is Sagittarius Capricorn border. That is December 21st. That's the day of death. What is the very next passage? It's the death of John the Baptist. I hope you guys are starting to see how they made these gospels and how they started to explain these heavenly stories through an anthropological, astrotheological allegory. Because the very next story is the death of John the Baptist. So let's take this sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation. Or the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who's the goddess of love. If you connect them, it splits the zodiac or the land in half. So that's how they write scripture. That's how it was done. Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Well, the bread is Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. Right here. And Pisces, the 2 fish, its opposing sign. Pisces is literally the 2 fish. This is the cross of God's sun. I mentioned this before. These are the cardinal signs. That's why there's cardinals in church. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? So what are the stories? The story of the temple tax, law, the unforgiving debtor, law, divorce and marriage, law, and the parable of the vineyard worker, grapes or wine. Then next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is when Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. And then here's where Jesus is crucified. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. Are you starting to see the great implication of this so far? This means that at the very, 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 very least, the Bible is not meant to be taken literally. So I'm going to leave you with that for now. That at the very least, we can show that the Bible is not meant to be taken literally. So let me read you this again, guys. What is the point of all this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus was when you put the plow on the bull and plant, as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac, and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make stories up about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children, etc. Eventually, they learned how to write and wrote them down, as I've shown, and evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to the Christians in the New Testament, then to the Quran, then to the Book of Mormon, and all the Gnostic texts. So my point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So this is a little off topic, but I wanted to share this. Couple of things. The U.S. was not founded as a Christian nation. Christianity is the most perverted system that ever shone on man. That's Thomas Jefferson. I have found Christian dogma unintelligible. That's Benjamin Franklin. This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. John Adams. The Constitution is the guide which I will never abandon. That's George Washington. But if we keep going, and the day will come when the mystical generation of Jesus by the Supreme Being as his father in the womb of a virgin will be classed with the fable of the generation of Minerva in the brain of Jupiter. Thomas Jefferson in a letter to John Adams. What influence, in fact, have Christian ecclesiastical establishments had on civil society? In many instances, they have been upholding the thrones of political tyranny. In no instance have they been sent as the guardians of the liberties of the people. That's James Madison. Then another James Madison quote. The purpose of separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of blood of Europe in blood for centuries. That is James Madison. And now this one's my favorite, actually. The Christian religion is a parody on the worship of the sun, in which they put a man called Christ in the place of the sun and pay him the adoration originally paid to the sun. That's Thomas Paine. Let me give you something a little bit more further. Why do they always crash the stock market in Libra? The Panic of 1907, October 1907, Teddy Roosevelt, Republican. Wall Street crash of 1929, October 24th, 1929. That's a handover date to Scorpio from Libra, by the way. But the energy is still there. Herbert Hoover, Republican. October 19th, 1987. That's Black Monday. Ronald Reagan, Republican. October 13th, 1989. Friday the 14th mini crash. George H.W. Bush, Republican. October 9th, 2002. Stock market downturn of 2002. George W. Bush, Republican. October 24th, 2008. 10% in most of the world's indices drop. Crash. Handover date to Scorpio. George W. Bush, Republican. So I'm not saying anything. But if I were a betting man, I would say that there is a good chance, since Donald Trump, a Republican, is now in office, and they can't seem to figure out how to stop him from doing what he's doing, just like they used the virus last time he was in, they might just crash it in Libra. And I'm not going to show you this, but the greatest point gains in the stock market have always been during Aries. So, Roman Catholic Catechism 2116. All forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead, or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, here you go right here, palm reading, interpretation of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. So look at the Roman Catholic Church trying to tell you that they don't understand the deacons, and they don't understand the cardinals, and they don't understand all these words, and then what I just basically showed you, and telling you that astrology is evil. So, what about the 72 virgins from Islam? We'll get to Islam. We'll get to the Quran eventually. 72 virgins, that's what they all do it for. There is a star called 70 Virginis, which borders Virgo. That's your 70 virgins. There's one virgin in Virgo, that's 71, plus the virgin you marry on Earth, that's 72. Those are the 72 virgins. It's all astrology. But it's not just the Bible. If you don't know by now that the Bible is not original, you still might have doubts. Here is 6,000 years of ancient holy texts. I'm going to give you 5 Sumerian tablets, the Babylonian Enuma Elish, the Code of Hammurabi, which is where the Jews get their punishments and code of ethics from, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, to the Gnostic texts, all of them, to the Quran, to the Book of Mormon, all of it. Now, I haven't included the Colburn Bible or the Ethiopian Bible in this, but it's the same thing. I can promise you that. I'll have those breakdowns at a later time. So let's start with the Epic of Gilgamesh. May the bear mourn you, the hyena, the panther, the leopard, deer, jackal, lion, wild bull, gazelle. May the rivers Ulaya and Euphrates mourn you, whose sacred waters we offered to the gods. May the young men of the great walled Uruk mourn you, who cheered when we slaughtered the bull of heaven. Who's the bull of heaven, guys? Taurus, maybe? May the farmer mourn you, who praised you to the skies in his harvest song. May the shepherd mourn you, who brought you milk. May the brewer mourn you, who made you fine beer. May Ishtar's priestess mourn you, who massaged you with sweet-smelling oil. May the wedding guests mourn you like their own brother. The bear is Ursa Major, the great bear, which is Gemini and Cancer. The leopard is Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. Mriga, or deer, is located in Orion between Taurus and Gemini. The lion is Leo. The wild bull is Taurus. The rivers are Pisces, the water sign that signifies water. The bull of heaven is Taurus. The shepherd is Aries, as previously mentioned. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is in Sagittarius. The brewer and the fine beer come from barley, which is harvested in Virgo. Ishtar's priestess is Virgo the woman. The sweet-smelling oil is the oil from Libra. The mourning like their own brother is Gemini the brothers. The only 2 zodiac signs in the Epic of Gilgamesh, written 6,000 years ago, by the way, in this passage, are Scorpio the scorpion and Capricorn the goat. Every other sign is mentioned. Astrotheology and Enki in the world order. Father Enki, engendered by a bull, begotten by a wild bull. Great dragon who stands in Eridug, a grove of vines extending over the land, where stags are born, where wild goats are born, in meadows. You close up the days and make the months enter their houses. The bull is Taurus, the dragon in its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius. The stag is the deer, which is in Mriga, which is called Mriga, which is in Orion, which sits between Taurus and Gemini, and the goats are Capricorn. Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius. 7 signs in a row, a pattern of 7 signs in a row to open this tablet. Enki and Nirasaja. In Dilmun, the raven was not yet cawing, the partridge not cackling, the lion did not slay, the wolf was not carrying off lambs, the dog had not been taught to make kids curl up, the pig had not learned that the grain was to be eaten. The raven is the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. The lion is Leo. These two are connecting signs. The wolf is the constellation Lupus, which borders Libra. 3 signs in a row. The lamb is Aries, which is the wolf's opposing sign. The dog is Canis Major, which is 11 stars in Cancer. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra are 4 signs in a row. You see all these patterns that they're making? Inanna's descent to the netherworld. She took the 7 divine powers. She had placed twin egg-shaped beads on her breast. After 3 days and 3 nights had passed, and the other the life-giving water. They will offer you a river full of water. They will offer you a field with its grain. They eat no fish. The 7 of them poured the milk. They would not let the shepherd play the pipe. He turned his feet into snake's feet, in the beer house and the tavern. The 7 divine powers are the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. That's in Taurus. The twin is Gemini. These are connecting signs. The life-giving water is Aquarius, and the river full of water is Pisces. These are connecting signs. The field and the grain is Virgo. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. The fish is Pisces as well. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius and Gemini are opposing signs. The shepherd is Aries. So far, we have Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, 5 signs in a row. The snake is Ophiuchus, which sits in sidereal astrology between Scorpio and Sagittarius. The beer house is Virgo. So in this one passage, 7 signs in the table, 5 total. Enki's journey to Nibiru. Its eaves roar like a bull. Your lock has no rival. Your bolt is a fearsome lion. Your roof beams are the bull of heaven. Your vault is a bull raising its horns. Your door is a lion who seizes a man. Your staircases is a lion coming down on a man. Rising sea without a rival. Mighty awe-inspiring river which terrifies the land. A lion in the midst of the Abzu. The Suhu carp play among the honey herbs. Enki has oxen slaughtered and had sheep offered there lavishly. Enki reached for the beer and had emmer wheat beer pressed out. The bull of Taurus, bull of heaven. The bull is Taurus, the bull of heaven. The lion is Leo. The man is Aquarius. Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs. The carp is Pisces, the fish, and the honey is the beehive cluster in Cancer. Aquarius and Pisces are connecting signs. The sheep is Aries. Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus are 4 signs in a row. The wheat beer is Virgo. Virgo and Pisces are opposing signs. Leo and Virgo are connecting signs. Cancer and Leo are connecting signs. Cancer, Leo, and Virgo are 3 signs in a row. Do you see? These are ancient Sumerian tablets, guys. This is 6,000 years old, this stuff. So we have everything. There's only 3 signs that are missing: Gemini, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. But even in the missing signs, the signs that are not here, there are patterns. Check it out. Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. Capricorn and Sagittarius are connecting signs. So even in there's patterns in what's missing too. It's unbelievable. There are countless other Sumerian texts. I only gave you 5 to show the pattern. Okay, so let's continue. The Enuma Elish, Babylonian. Then Tiamat enlisted a horned snake, the Meshusu dragon, a mad dog, and scorpion man, half man, half fish, half man, half bull. The horned snake is Ophiuchus. A dragon is Draco. The mad dog is the dog star Sirius. The Scorpio man is Scorpio Aquarius mix. The half man, half fish is Aquarius Pisces border, which blends the fish and the man sign. And the half man, half bull, which is half Aquarius, half Taurus. Incidentally, just completely side note, when you're talking about mermaids and mermen, right? A merman is Aquarius Pisces mix. A mermaid is Pisces Virgo mix. Aquarius and Pisces are connecting signs. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. Just wanted to share that. The Code of Hammurabi. If a man has stolen ox or sheep or ass or pig or ship, whether from the temple or the palace, he shall pay 30-fold. The man's sign is Aquarius, the ox is Taurus, the sheep is Aries, the ass is a Salus Borealis or donkey located in Cancer, and the pig is a constellation called Porcus. The ship is a constellation called Argo that goes from Cancer to Scorpio. That's 7 signs total. The Egyptian Book of the Dead. O mighty of knives, lady of the two lands, the one who smashes the enemies of the weary-hearted one, the one who does what is wise, the one free of wrong. The name of its gatekeeper is Long-Horned Bull. What is to be said when arriving at the 5th portal? Words spoken by the Osiris Ani, the vindicated, O fiery one, mistress of heat, the joyful one, the one whom gives the entities of the bald-headed do not descend, the one who asks that something be given to her without the swift of glance entering into her. The name of its gatekeeper is one who spears the disaffected. So the lady is Virgo, the long-horned bull is Taurus. Chapter for becoming Ta, eating bread, drinking beer, purifying the hinder parts, and being alive in Heliopolis. What will you live on, say the gods and spirits to me? I will live and have power through bread. Where will you eat it, say the gods and spirits to me? I will have power and I will eat it under the branches of the tree of Hathor, my mistress, who made offerings of beer, bread, and corn in Heliopolis. Guys, the bread, the beer, the wheat, the barley, and the corn, I mentioned all that is Virgo, right? Those who are in Heliopolis bow their heads to me, for I am their Lord, I am their bull. The bread, beer, and corn is all Virgo when you harvest. The bull is Taurus. Heliopolis is the city of light. It was called On. That's why when you go into a room, you have to turn the lights on for the light to kick in to be enlightened, because everything is spiritual, guys. The Book of Enoch. Semjaza taught enchantments. Armoros, the resolving of enchantments. Barakadiel taught astrology. Kokabel, the constellations. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Sariel, the course of the moon. And in those days shall the mountains leap like rams, that's Aries, and the hills shall also skip like lambs, that's Aries, satisfied with the milk, the Milky Way galaxy, centers in Sagittarius. The Gospel of Q. Give us our daily bread today. Which of you would give your child a stone if they ask for bread? Or who would give them a snake if they ask for fish? The bread is Virgo, the snake is Ophiuchus, and the fish is Pisces. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. Everyone who divorces his wife and remarries is unfaithful to her, and whoever marries someone who's divorced is unfaithful too. Which of you, if you had 100 sheep and lost one of them, wouldn't leave the 99 in the hills and go after the one that got lost? Well, divorce, marriage, court, law is all Libra, the sheep is Aries. Those are opposing signs. The Secret Gospel of John. Sophia saw what her desire produced, a change in the form of a dragon with a lion's head. Well, the dragon is Draco the dragon, Aries to Sagittarius, and the lion is Leo. And part of Aries to Sagittarius is Aquarius, which is the lion's opposing sign. So they do make a pattern there. The Gospel of Thomas. Happy is the lion that a man will eat. The lion will become a man. Cursed is the man whom the lion eats, for that lion will become a man. You're talking about ingesting an animal and their components will become part of you, or you a part of them. However, in astrology, the lion is the sign Leo. The sign of the man is Aquarius. They are opposing signs on the zodiac. Man is like a skilled angler who casts his net up and draws it up full of fish. They're talking about the man, Aquarius, and the sign of fish, Pisces. They are connecting signs. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Mary questioned her master, at the end of an eon will all matter be destroyed. Each zodiac sign is considered a house, so the house of Aquarius, the house of Pisces, each sign is also called an eon. We went over this at the beginning. The Gospel of Philip. When he came to his disciples in splendid glory on the Mount of Olives, he wasn't small. He became great and made his disciples great so they could see him in his greatness. On that day, he said in gratitude, "You who have perfect light with Holy Spirit, unite us with the angels as well. Don't scorn the Lamb. Without him, it's impossible to know the King. No one will visit the King without robes of light." So the olives are in Libra and the Lamb is Aries. Those are opposing signs. The Good Samaritan gave wine and oil to the weak man. Both wine and oil come from Libra. The Gospel of Judas. The nearby lake of still waters quenched our thirst. The place reminded us of David's famed shepherd song, Our Souls Were Restored. The lake of still waters is Pisces, the water, and the shepherd is Aries. These are connecting signs. The Gospel of Emmanuel, discovered by Billy Meyer. This earth can nourish. So this is not astrotheology, but I just wanted to throw this in there. This earth can nourish and support 500 million people of all the races. But if these laws are not followed, in 2,000 years, 10 times 500 million people will exist and the earth will not be able to support them anymore. So this was supposedly discovered in 1963. So 2,000 years prior to that, 500 million people. But 2,000 years, you times that by 10, that's 5 billion people. So how many people were on Earth in 1963? Would it be close to 5 billion? It would be somewhere around that number, I believe. But this gospel was discovered in 1963. Maybe something created in 1980. Support the 500 million, like the Georgia Guidestones that were destroyed. I think this is where it comes from. I can't be sure, and I would need, if you guys have any further information, but this is where I basically trace it back to. So, truly I say to you, from now on I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vineyard, nor eat of the bread until I drink and eat again with you after my affliction. The grapes are Libra and the bread is Virgo. These are connecting signs. The Quran. Those who do not know say, why has not the Lord turned the word to us, and why will he not show us a sign from heaven? Similar words were spoken by those who came before them with their hearts alike. We interpret the signs for those who are committed to the faith. And how beautiful all the people see the love and earthly possessions. Here are women and sons, there are mountains of silver and gold, and marked horses, herds of cattle, and a plowed field. Women are Virgo, the sign of the women, and the sons are the boys in Gemini. Horses of Sagittarius, and the cattle is Taurus. A plowed field is Taurus as well. Taurus and Gemini are connecting signs. Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. Verily, in the creation of earth and the sky and in the change of night to day, here are the signs for those who have intelligence. And among them are those who only pretendingly listens to you. We put a cover on their hearts so that they would not understand it, and we covered their ears with deafness. And even if they see all the signs, they will not believe them. He is one who brings down water to you from the sky, and with it we give plants of all kinds to grow. And with it we grow shoots of cereals, from them we grew grains, sitting in an ear of dense side by side. From the date palm, its ovaries, bunches of fruits hanging low, gardens of vines, olives, pomegranates, which, in many ways, are so similar yet so different from each other. When fruits appear on them, rejoice in how they are poured and ripened. Truly, in this are hidden signs for those who believe in God. So the grains, what are the signs? The grains are planted in Taurus. Then April showers bring May flowers, water from the sky. The grains grow, reap in Virgo. Gardens of vines and olives. Grapes and olives are pressed in Libra. These are the hidden signs that you need to know. And whoever wants to own a beautiful garden of date palms and vines, which is washed by abundant streams, where for his pleasure kinds of fruit, while old age befalls him, and the children are weak, so that a fiery whirlwind falls on the garden and swallows it to ashes. So the Lord explains his signs to you so that you can understand. The vines in the vineyards in Libra, and the streams are the streams in the water sign Pisces and Aquarius. The Book of Mormon. Nevertheless, I went forth, and as I came near unto the house of Laban, I beheld a man, and he had fallen to earth before me, for he was drunken with wine. Yea, and I also thought that they could not keep the commandments of the Lord according to the law of Moses, save they should have the law. Well, both wine and lawly things take place in Libra. And after the house of Israel should be scattered, they should be gathered together again, or in fine, after the Gentiles had received the fullness of the gospel, the natural branches of the olive tree, or the remnants of the house of Israel should be grafted in or come to the knowledge of the true Messiah, the Lord and their Redeemer. Therefore remember, O man, for all thy doings thou shalt be brought into judgment. The olives take place in Libra, the judgment takes place in Libra. And my father said he should baptize in Bethabara, beyond Jordan, And he also said he should baptize with water, and even that he should baptize the Messiah with water. And after he had baptized the Messiah with water, he should behold and bear record that he had baptized the Lamb of God who should take away the sins of the world. Baptism is literally Aquarius. The man pouring out the water pitcher, the Lamb of God, is Aries. And I looked and beheld the Lamb of God, that he was taken by the people. Yeah, the Son of the everlasting God was judged of this world, and I saw and bear record. The Lamb of God is Aries. The Son of God, or the Son of Man, is Aquarius. Judging takes place in Libra. Libra and Aries are opposing signs. So that is 6,000 years, guys. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are not smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they took them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said that all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. So do you guys understand the great implication here? I told you the first great implication was that at the very, very least, the Bible is not meant to be taken literally. Here, what is more likely? That all the Western ancient holy texts that we take for granted are living, breathing books? That Revelation keeps coming true? Or is it that the ancient elites that have always encoded them the exact same way, have encoded them all the exact same way, and are tailoring events that people can interpret as coming true? Which is Occam's razor on this? Now, if you guys were interested in this, I'm going to read you a couple of topics that I discuss in my book series. My book series right here. Into the Rabbit Hole series. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm writing the 9th one right now. Topics discussed: gematria, etymology, numerology, astronomy, astrology, astrotheology. The storyline is astrotheology based, by the way. I don't think there's ever been a book astrotheology based like that. Out-of-body experiences, the Akashic Records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, capstones of the pyramids, DNA encoding, mystery school channelers, near-death experience, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, forbidden Tesla tech, spiritual guides and shared dreaming, crystal technology, conspiracies that not many people know about, corruption, secret societies. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. It's in this book series. If you reach out to me on social media, first of all, my website is debunkmywork.com. I've been waiting for someone to do so. I got into this doing what I do right now because I was looking for someone to show me the other side, and nobody's ever done that. My social media, what you're going to do is you're going to go to Debunk My Work. It has all my social media, and it has all the videos, the full videos. So I only give you an example of the Book of Enoch, right? One example. But if you wanted to see the whole Book of Enoch, you can go to my website, and it'll give you the Rumble links. My Facebook is Micah Dank. My Twitter is @RealMrDank. My Instagram is Micah Dank. And, if you want to follow me, talk to me, I do have digital and audio books for my 8 books. So if you want to get the set for either, I can email them for you. If you wanted to reach out. And that's pretty much it, guys. So that's my case right there, is that for the last 6,000 years, we have been controlled by an astrology encoding system that people are taking literally.
If you would like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can also go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Just make sure to reach out and get a hold of me, and we will get something scheduled for a future episode. You can also find Tinfoil Tales on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for Tinfoil Tales Podcast. You can reach out to me that way too. Remember to share the show around. Word of mouth is the best way to help the show grow. And just remember, truth comes at cost. Are you willing to pay the price?